Greetings and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Isaac. This daily was a dice roll, and I know this isn't the channel of puns or whatever, but I still like to make them from time to time, but I also mean it quite literally in this case, because there's so many chances that you get to get just awesome items with a D6, and when you have a plan constructed in your head on how you can utilize it to its fullest potential, or maybe you need to focus on certain objectives and you know what you have to do, but when that plan comes together and you spend like 30 minutes just rerolling items to get that one item that you need in order to break the game, so something like the shovel or maybe Mama Mega so you can get the boss rush or whatever. It feels so good when it does happen, but when it doesn't happen, it just feels like you're kind of wasting your time and you're just asking the game, is this seriously happening right now, or are you just trolling me? And obviously, the game is a bit trolling in that sense that it can end up burning you more than it can help you. And this is definitely one of those dailies, at least for me. And I'm really surprised with how many obvious seams there are and just how easily you could have actually went forward or broke the game or whatever, and yet I still managed to rank 50th, even though I didn't go an additional floor and I didn't go to boss rush, which is something that I would expect most people would do. Sure, you know, I did get a lot of Shrek bonus with what I did early on, but it's still, I don't think it makes up for how much points I've missed by missing those obvious seams, and it's a really surprise to see that more people didn't go for them. And maybe the first example here is that the first devil deal has the shovel, and obviously that would have been the most logical, sane choice in this situation, because you can take it and then you can go on an additional floor, or maybe you can find some crawl spaces along the way, and you never know, maybe they can contain something good. Of course, if you do take the shovel, in this particular case, you're missing out on the D6, and the D6 is kind of crucial in this daily to actually get a good run. The overall run and the quality of items that you get aren't that high, which means that you need some external sources to make them better. And of course with the D6 you can do that just because you can keep rolling them until eventually you hopefully get something good. And for that reason I decided to skip the shovel, and maybe it would have been even a bit better for me to not take the devil deal at all, because what I could have done then is go to the angel rooms, and then I could have killed the angel statue, and because now the angel rooms have more items on average, I could have killed the angel statue and then rerolled all of those items plus the key fragment and hoped that I would get something good out of that. But as it is now, the only damage upgrade that we got was the Deadeye shot. That's what it's called. Essentially, the item that decreases the damage the more accurate your shots are, and it's a solid item. It increases your damage by twofold. In this case, basically it increases it from 3.5 to 7, and it's good because it does allow us to kill enemies a bit faster. But it's still not what I would call ideal. It's definitely not in the realms of being too powerful. It still definitely takes a lot of time to actually just deal with enemies, and especially bosses. Besides that, the first maybe questionable decision that I've made on this run, besides not picking up the shovel, that is the second questionable decision, was picking up Matt's Kidney Stone. And it's an item that not a lot of people like, and personally, I do have a distaste for it, but I like the absurdity of the item. And if you don't know what it does, or maybe it just kind of escaped your feeling or how it works, is essentially every time you shoot, there's a chance that you will start charging up a kidney shot, and that kidney shot will deal, I think, the triple amount of your damage of a regular tier, which is pretty damaging. But after that charging shot, you start gonna shooting really fast, and that is gonna deal quite a lot of damage to enemies. And it's a good proposition because I feel like it's very fun to use, but most often than not it can actually end up screwing you over more than it can help you, because that charging shot can occur randomly, so it's not something like you can control, but it happens maybe when enemies are chasing you down and you want to dodge, or maybe you want to knock them back with your tiers, and you can't do that because you're charging up that shot and you just get hit, and it's a bit of a bummer. But also when you do charge up, you end up immobilized and you're just not able to do any damage or defend yourself for that maybe 3 or 4 seconds that you're charging that shot up, and for that reason you're left in a very vulnerable position. It's a bummer, and it's one of those items which definitely has a lot more negatives than positives associated with it, at least in my opinion, but I still decided to pick it up from time to time just because I feel like it's a pretty rare item. It doesn't show up that often, but also it's a pretty fun one. At least if it's a bad item, it has some fun uses. And in this particular case, sadly, I did throw it out the window because then Ludovico technique showed up, and I thought that having a floating banana in the air would have been more interesting than just having a kidney shot. And I felt like it's gonna go a little bit better because it actually synergizes really well with that shot, because it maxes out your tiers, but it doesn't actually account for the damage dropdowns. Essentially, that shot, or that die in this case, just gives you a ×2 damage multiplier to whatever you have, if you have Ludovico. And I just felt like with the banana tiers I have from Papula Duplex, this is gonna be a pretty fun combo. And I feel like it was, even though it wasn't the most damaging or the most successful combo, it still did allow me to kind of hover around the rocks and just kill enemies from a much safer position. But you can see that I started employing the strategy of just going to the shops and trying to reroll them as much as possible to hopefully get some good items out of them. And I did get Sackhead, and I was satisfied with that. I was really hoping that this floor is not gonna have greed in its shop, because this is the floor to shine. This is basically where I'm gonna try to get the Mama Mega. I'll try to use it, and of course I'll keep the D6 to carry it forward, and then maybe hopefully with a Sackhead I can go to the secret room, maybe force a Forget-Me-Now, and with that maybe I can get the sacrifice room and whatnot. And you can see that I spent like 20 minutes in total, and I just skipped and over basically everything. But what mostly it consisted of is me playing the temperance cards. I would get sacks, I would get battery charges, I would go to the shop, I would reroll the shop, I would try to get the Mama Mega, and it just didn't want to show up. And I think I rerolled in total something like 20 times, I would say, from 1 to 2 to multiple items, but it just didn't want to show up. And maybe I missed it previously, so it just got spawned and it won't appear again, or maybe I just missed it while I was rerolling, but I feel like it just didn't spawn at all, and it's a bummer. I feel like I was reaching towards the end of that particular pool, so it couldn't have been much more, but I just ran out of battery charges, and there's really nothing more that I could have done in that situation, which is a bit of a bummer. I feel like if I did manage my resources just a little bit better, I would have been able to do something, but alas, it is what it is. I really can't complain too much about it. It is bound to happen sometimes. Even if you have just a lot of recharges and rerolls, it's not guaranteed that you're gonna get the one item you're seeking. And with that, at least I got enough consumable bonus and swag bonus that I wasn't too upset by it, but obviously it would have been a much more ideal situation if I did make it to boss rush. Well, now I'm on the lookout for some other items, and obviously in this case I'm looking out for an AWAS room, because that is essentially what's gonna allow me to go forward. Or maybe I'm hoping for something like a sacrifice room to spawn on this floor, and this is mainly what I was banking on. But sadly, of course, the troll engine in this case didn't really decide to cooperate, and we decided that nah, you don't need the sacrifice room here. It's better if the run just ends here. And I would tend to disagree, but then again, maybe they're right, because playing with the Ludovico technique in a very hard floor can be pretty devastating. But in this case, I really had wished that this run actually went on a bit forward, because in this particular floor, I actually get Sacred Heart, and everybody knows just how rare Sacred Heart is, and when it does show up, I feel like I need to use it to the greatest of potentials, but sadly in this particular case, that wasn't possible, because while it did appear, it just didn't do anything for me, and it's a bummer. And I thought maybe that I can go to the secret room, there are 2 items in there, and with all of the battery charges that are gonna spawn on the ground, I can maybe reroll them enough times to essentially guarantee Forget-Me-Now, and that's exactly what I did. But of course, as you would expect, the Forget-Me-Now never showed up at all. And maybe it's because of Curse of Darkness. Again, maybe I just missed it because the entire floor is dark and I didn't know what was happening. But I feel like there are some other forces at play here. Maybe this daily just wasn't meant to be broken, even though it had some very obvious seams. But also I feel like if I managed my resources a bit better, I could have made something happen. But we did finish in the 45th place with 27,000 points in total, which is not too terrible for a run that that goes to the Womb 2. Sure, you know, it would have been nice to have that additional 4,000 points from the boss rush, which would have netted us at like 30,000, or maybe if we went to the sacrifice room and went to the dark room, that would have allowed us to have a little bit of a higher of a stage bonus. But it is what it is. The whole run took me 54 minutes, and I'm just glad it was over at this point. If the troll engine says you're not gonna break the game today, I just feel like I'm inclined to agree, because what else can I really do? I hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and I hope to see you next time.